The night was quiet in the deep space monitoring station. Captain Yuna sat alone in her chair, watching the screens glow with soft blue light. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. She had been working at Station 7 for 3 years now. Most nights were boring. Nothing happened. Ships passed by. Signals came and went. The universe was big and empty dot, but tonight felt different. Yuna could not explain why. She just felt it in her bones. She took a sip of her coffee. It was cold now. She had forgotten about it hours ago. The clock on the wall showed 3:47 in the morning. Her team had gone home. Only she remained, watching, waiting for nothing in particular. Then the signal came. At first, it was just a small blip on her screen. A tiny flash of light among millions of data points. Yuna almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her look closer. She leaned forward and touched the screen, zooming in on the signal. It was not like anything she had seen before. The signal pulsed in a strange pattern. 3 short bursts. 3 long bursts. 3 short bursts again. Over and over. Yuna's heart began to beat faster. She knew this pattern. Every human knew this pattern. It was old. Very old. From the ancient times before humans went to space. SOS. Someone was calling for help. Yuna's fingers moved fast across her keyboard. She traced the signal back to its source. It came from far away. Very far. Beyond the edge of known space. Beyond the safe zones. Beyond everywhere humans had ever gone. She pressed a button and the signal played through her speakers. At first, there was only static. White noise. The sound of empty space. Then a voice came through. It was weak. Tired. Full of fear. The voice did not speak any human language. The words were strange and musical, like water flowing over stones. But the station's computer began to translate. Please, anyone. We need help. They are coming. They will kill us all, please. The voice broke into crying. Then static again. Then the SOS pattern continued. Yuna sat frozen in her chair. Her coffee cup fell from her hand and crashed on the floor. She did not notice. Her mind was racing. Aliens, real aliens. And they were dying. Humanity had known for a long time that they were not alone in the universe. 50 years ago, they had made first contact with the Galactic Council. It was not a happy meeting. The council was made of hundreds of alien species. They had lived among the stars for thousands of years. They had rules. They had territories. They had peace. And they were terrified of humans. Earth was what they called a death world. A planet so dangerous that life should not exist there. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The animals were killers. Disease lived in every corner. And yet, somehow, humans had survived. Not just survived. They had thrived. They had grown strong. They had become the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever seen. The council had made a decision. Humans would be quarantined. They could not leave their small corner of space. They could not join the greater galaxy. They were too dangerous. Too unpredictable. Too violent. Humans had accepted this. They had no choice. The council's fleets were vast. Their technology was ancient and powerful. So humanity stayed in their little box, looking out at the stars they could not reach. But now someone was calling for help. And Yuna had heard them. She reached for her communication device. Her hand was shaking. She pressed the button to connect to High Command on Earth. "This is Captain Yuna at Station 7, she said. Her voice was steady even though her heart was not. "I have received an emergency signal from unknown space. Alien origin. They are requesting help. Please advise." There was silence. Long silence. Then a voice came back. It was Admiral Taiho, the commander of the United Earth Fleet. He should have been asleep at this hour. But Yuna knew he never slept much. "Captain Yuna," the Admiral said. His voice was deep and calm. "Tell me everything." Yuna told him. She described the signal, the pattern, the voice, the crying, the fear. When she finished, there was more silence. "Play me the signal," the Admiral said. Yuna pressed a button. The recording played. The strange voice filled the air again. The musical words, the begging, the terror. When it ended, the Admiral spoke again. "Do you know who they are?" Yuna had been working on that. Her computer had analyzed the voice patterns and compared them to the Council's database. The database that humans were not supposed to have. But humans were good at getting things they were not supposed to have. "The Valari," Yuna said. "They are a peaceful species. No military. No weapons. They are scientists and artists. They live on the far edge of Council space." And who is attacking them? Yuna's throat felt dry. She had found that answer too. She wished she had not. "The Kreth Dominion," she said. The Admiral said nothing for a long time. Everyone knew about the Kreth. They were the monsters of the galaxy. They did not join the Council. They did not follow rules. They took what they wanted. They destroyed what they did not want. 17 civilizations had fallen to them. 17 species gone forever. Erased from existence. The Council did nothing to stop them. The Council was too afraid. "How far?" the Admiral asked. 3 days at maximum speed, Yuna said. "If we leave now, the Council will be angry," the Admiral said. "We would be breaking the quarantine. We would be entering forbidden space. They could declare war on us." Yuna closed her eyes. She knew all of this. She knew the rules. She knew the dangers. But she also knew what she had heard in that voice. Pure terror. Innocent people about to die. "Sir," she said, "they are calling for help. They are dying. We can save them." The Admiral laughed softly. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had seen too much of the universe. "You know what they call us, don't you?" he said. "The other species. The Council. They call us Deathworlders. Monsters from a nightmare planet. They think we are evil. They think we only know how to kill. I know, sir. They quarantined us because they fear us. They look at us and see death. Yes, sir. But they do not understand something important, Captain. They do not understand why humans are the way we are. We did not become strong because we love death. We became strong because we love life. We fought our planet every day for millions of years. Not because we wanted to kill. Because we wanted to survive. Because we wanted to protect our families. Our children. Our friends. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She did not know why. "The Valari are not our family," the Admiral continued. "They are not our species. They are not even from our corner of the galaxy. But they are calling for help. They are scared. They are about to die. And you know what? That makes them the same as every human who ever lived. Because we have all been there. We have all been scared. We have all needed help. What are your orders, sir?" Yuna asked. The Admiral's voice became hard. "Like steel. Like iron. Forward me the coordinates. I am waking up the fleet." Yuna's heart jumped. "Sir? The entire fleet?" "Every ship. Every soldier. Every weapon we have. The Council will see this as an act of war. Let them," the Admiral said. "Let them watch. Let them see what Deathworlders do when someone calls for help. They have spent 50 years being afraid of us. Now, they will learn why we are truly terrifying. Not because we are monsters, but because we refuse to let innocent people die. Una sent the coordinates. Her hands were still shaking, but now it was not from fear. It was from excitement, from hope, from pride. She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valari were waiting. They had sent their cry into the darkness, not knowing if anyone would hear, not knowing if anyone would care, but someone had heard. And someone did care. In shipyards across human space, lights were turning on. Engines were roaring to life. Soldiers were putting on their armor. Pilots were running to their fighters. The greatest fleet humanity had ever built was waking up. The galaxy called them Deathworlders. They called Earth a death planet. They thought humans were monsters. They were about to learn the truth. Una watched her screens as ship after ship reported ready. The names scrolled past. The Sol, the Bizon, the Daegu, the Inchin. Hundreds of warships, each one carrying thousands of humans. All of them ready to fly into the unknown. All of them ready to fight. All of them ready to die. Not for territory. Not for resources. Not for power. For strangers who had called for help. The Admiral's voice came through one more time. Captain Una? Yes, sir? You did good work tonight. You heard them when no one else was listening. You cared when no one else knew to care. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong. Una smiled. Thank you, sir. Now get some sleep. We have a long journey ahead. And at the end of it, we have a war to fight. The connection ended. Una sat back in her chair and watched the fleet prepare. She thought about the Valari, scared and alone in the dark. She thought about the Kreth, cruel and powerful and certain of their victory. She thought about the Council, watching from far away, too afraid to act. And she thought about humanity, the Deathworlders, the monsters, the survivors. They were coming. And when they arrived, the galaxy would never be the same again. Far away, on the bridge of the command ship, Admiral Taiho stood looking at a map of the stars. His officers moved around him, preparing for departure. The ship hummed with energy and purpose. How long until we reach them? He asked. 3 days, sir, his navigator said. If we push the engines hard, then push them. Those people do not have time to wait. The Admiral touched the map, his finger resting on a small dot of light. The Valari home system. Such a tiny thing, such a big universe. But the fleet had been flying for 6 hours when the message came from the Galactic Council. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sol. Around him, officers worked their stations. Screens glowed with information. The ship moved fast through the darkness of space, and behind it, hundreds more followed. His communication officer, a young woman named Yunji, looked up from her console. Her face was pale. Sir, she said, we are receiving a transmission. Priority channel. It is from the Council. Taiho had expected this. The Council watched everything. They had satellites and stations spread across the galaxy. They would have seen the human fleet leave quarantine space within minutes of departure. Put it through, he said. The main screen flickered. Then a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin and large black eyes. Its head was tall and narrow, with no hair. This was a Veluxi, one of the oldest species in the Council. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. Admiral Taiho of the human fleet, the Veluxi said. Its voice was cold and flat. You are in violation of the quarantine agreement of 2147. Your ships have crossed into forbidden space. You must turn back immediately. Taiho did not move. He kept his hands behind his back and his face calm. Representative Ilko, he said. He recognized the Veluxi. They had met once before, many years ago. Thank you for your message. We have received it. We will not be turning back. The Veluxi's large eyes blinked slowly. You do not understand. This is not a request. This is an order from the full Galactic Council. If you continue, you will face consequences. What consequences? Taiho asked. The Council will consider this an act of aggression. The quarantine will become a blockade. Your species will be isolated completely. No trade. No communication. Nothing. Taiho smiled slightly. It was not a friendly smile. Representative Ilko, he said, my people have been isolated for 50 years. We have built our own technology, grown our own food, made our own ships. Your blockade means nothing to us. We do not need you. The Veluxi shifted uncomfortably. Then you force us to consider military action. Consider it all you want. I have 300 warships behind me. Every one of them is crewed by humans. Deathworlders. Monsters from a nightmare planet. Your words, not mine. Taiho stepped closer to the screen. Do you really want to fight us? Silence. The Veluxi said nothing for a long moment. Then it spoke again, and this time its voice was different. Softer, almost pleading. Admiral, please. You do not know what you are doing. The Kreth Dominion is not like other enemies. They have destroyed 17 civilizations. 17 species erased forever. They cannot be beaten. They cannot be stopped. If you go to help the Velari, you will die. All of you. Then we will die, Taiho said simply. Why? The Veluxi seemed genuinely confused. The Velari are nothing to you. They are weak. They have no military. No resources worth taking. Why would you sacrifice your people for them? Taiho thought about his answer. He thought about all the things he could say. About duty. About honor. About the nature of humanity. But in the end, he chose simple words. Because they asked for help. The Veluxi stared at him. That is all? That is your reason? That is enough. You are insane. All of you. Your entire species is insane. Perhaps. But we are also the only ones willing to help. Where is the Council? Where are your fleets? The Velari are being slaughtered, and you do nothing. The Veluxi looked away. For the first time, there was something like shame in its eyes. We cannot, it said quietly. The Kreth are too strong. If we fight them, they will destroy us too. We must protect our own people. By letting innocent people die. By surviving. That is what matters. Survival. Taiho shook his head. That is where we are different, Representative. Humans do not believe that survival is enough. Living while others die around you is not living. It is existing. And we refuse to just exist. The Veluxi looked back at him. Its black eyes were unreadable. The Council has one more thing to say, it said. This is unofficial. Not on the record. Go ahead. Some of us hope you win. Some of us have watched the Kreth kill for centuries and felt helpless. Some of us are tired of being afraid. We cannot help you openly. But if you succeed, the Veluxi paused. If you succeed, everything changes. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Taiho stood still for a moment, thinking about what he had heard. Then he turned to his officers. Continue on course, he said. Maximum speed. Yes, sir, the navigator said. Lieutenant Minho, the tactical officer, walked up to Taiho. He was a young man, but his eyes were serious and sharp. Sir, Minho said, the Council is right about one thing. The Kreth have never been defeated. Not once in 300 years. Their technology is advanced. Their ships are powerful. Their soldiers are brutal. I know, Taiho said. We are going in blind. We do not know how many ships they have. We do not know their tactics. We do not know their weaknesses. I know. Minho hesitated. Sir, with respect. Do you have a plan? Taiho looked at his tactical officer. He saw the fear there, hidden behind the professional mask. He saw it in all his officers. They were scared. They would be fools not to be. Minho, he said, let me tell you a story. When I was a boy, my grandfather told me about the old wars on Earth, the times when humans fought each other. He told me about a battle where a small army faced a force 10 times larger. The odds were impossible. Everyone said they would lose. What happened? Minho asked. They won. Not because they were stronger. Not because they had better weapons. They won because they refused to accept defeat. They kept fighting when any logical person would have surrendered. They found weakness where there should have been none. They turned the enemy's strength against them. And you think we can do the same? Taiho put his hand on Minho's shoulder. I think we are humans. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived disasters that should have ended us 100 times. And do you know how we survived? How? We adapted. We learned. We changed. That is what humans do. We face the impossible, and we find a way. The Kreth have never fought anything like us. They have destroyed peaceful species. Weak species. Species that gave up. They have never faced a Deathworld species that refuses to die. Minho nodded slowly. Some of the fear left his eyes. Not all of it. But some. What are your orders, sir? Gather all intelligence we have on the Kreth. Study their past battles. Look for patterns. Look for mistakes. Everyone thinks they are perfect. No one is perfect. There is always a weakness. Find it. Yes, sir. Minho walked away to his station. Taiho watched him go, then turned to look out the main window. Stars streamed past as the ship flew through space at incredible speed. He thought about his family back on Earth. His wife, Sumin. His daughter, Hannah. They were safe, for now. But if this mission failed, if the Kreth decided to come for Earth next, no. He pushed the thought away. He could not think about failure. Only victory. His communication officer, Yunji, spoke again. Sir, I am receiving reports from across the fleet. All ships are in formation. Morale is high. The soldiers are ready. Good. Sir, there is something else. I have been monitoring communications from the Council space. The news about our fleet has spread. Other species are talking about us. What are they saying? Yunji looked at her screen. Most think we are crazy. Some think we are heroes. But all of them are watching. They want to see what happens. Taiho smiled. Then let us give them something to see. The hours passed. The fleet flew on. Taiho stayed on the bridge, sleeping in his chair when he could no longer stand. His officers worked in shifts, but he refused to leave. He wanted to be there when they arrived. He wanted to be the first to see the enemy. On the second day, Minho came to him with a report. Sir, I have found something. Taiho sat up. Tell me. The Kreth have a pattern. In every battle they have fought, they use the same basic strategy. Overwhelming force at the start. They hit hard and fast, trying to destroy morale. They expect their enemies to break and run. When that happens, they chase them down and finish them. What if their enemies do not run? Minho checked his notes. That has never happened. Every species they have fought has either surrendered or fled. Then, that is our advantage, Taiho said. We will not run. We will not surrender. We will stand and fight, no matter what they throw at us. There is more, Minho said. The Kreth ships are powerful, but they are built for quick victories. They have strong weapons, but weaker shields. They never expect a long fight. So if we survive the first attack, then we might have a chance. Their ships will be vulnerable. Their crews will be confused. They will not know how to handle an enemy that keeps fighting. Taihao stood up. He felt energy flowing through his tired body. This was it. This was the path to victory. Spread this information to all ships, he said. Tell every captain, every soldier. We survived the first wave. We absorbed their attack. And then we hit back. Hard. Yes, sir. The fleet flew on. The third day came. They were Gethi. The Valari homeworld was burning. Lieutenant Jisoo stood at the window of the landing shuttle and looked down at the planet below. Smoke rose from 100 cities. Fires glowed orange against the dark surface. Even from orbit, she could see the destruction. Behind her, 20 soldiers sat in their seats, checking their weapons and equipment. They were the first rescue team. The first humans to ever set foot on an alien world outside quarantine space. The first to meet the Valari face to face. 2 minutes to landing, the pilot announced. I am putting us down near the largest group of life signs. Looks like a refugee camp of some kind. Jisoo nodded. She turned to face her team. Listen up, she said. We do not know what we will find down there. The Valari have never seen humans before. To them, we are the Deathworlders, the monsters from the Nightmare Planet. They might be more scared of us than the Kreth. Sergeant Dongwu, her second in command, raised his hand. Orders if they run from us? We do not chase. We do not force. We show them we mean no harm. Medical supplies first. Food and water. Actions speak louder than words. Let them see what we are really about. The shuttle shook as it entered the atmosphere. Outside the window, flames licked at the hull. Then they broke through the clouds and the ground rushed up toward them. The landing was smooth. The shuttle set down on a flat area near a large collection of tents and makeshift shelters. Jisoo could see figures moving between the structures. Small figures, thin and delicate. Doors opening, the pilot said. The ramp lowered. Hot air rushed into the shuttle, carrying the smell of smoke and fear. Jisoo took a breath, then walked down onto the alien soil. The ground was soft, almost like sand. The sky was a strange shade of purple. 2 small suns hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the refugee camp. Jisoo had studied pictures of this world. But being here was different. Everything felt different. She walked toward the camp. Her team followed, spreading out behind her in a protective formation. They carried medical kits and supply crates. Their weapons were on their backs, visible but not in their hands. The Valari saw them coming. They were beautiful in a strange way. Tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Their eyes were large and golden, like pools of honey. Their limbs were long and graceful. They looked like they were made for dancing, for creating art, for everything except fighting. And they were terrified. The moment they saw the humans, they froze. Then they started to scream. It was a high sound, like birds crying out in fear. The Valari scattered in all directions, running into tents, hiding behind shelters, pressing themselves against the ground as if trying to disappear into it. Jisoo stopped walking. She raised her hands to show they were empty. We are here to help, she said, even though she knew they could not understand her. We received your signal. We came to help. An older Valari stepped out from behind a tent. It moved slowly, shakily, using a walking stick for support. Its blue skin was darker than the others, marked with age. It looked at Jisoo with those golden eyes. Deathworlders, it said. The translation device in Jisoo's ear picked up the word and converted it to human language. You are the Deathworlders. From the Death Planet. Yes, Jisoo said. We are humans. From Earth. The old Valari's whole body trembled. Why are you here? Have you come to finish what the Kreth started? Have you come to eat us? Jisoo almost laughed, but she held it back. This was not funny. These people had been told horror stories about humans for generations. They genuinely believed that humans were monsters who ate other species. She knelt down slowly, making herself smaller, less threatening. No, she said gently. We do not eat people. We are not here to hurt you. We heard your distress signal. We came to help. Help? The words seemed to confuse the old Velari. Deathworlders do not help. They only kill. That is what we were told. You were told wrong. Jisoo reached into her medical kit and pulled out a small device. It was a healing tool designed to close wounds and fight infection. She held it up for the Velari to see. This is medicine, she said. We brought food, water, blankets, everything we could carry. We want to help your injured. We want to save your people. The old Velari stared at her. Its golden eyes were wet with tears that caught the light of the twin suns. I do not understand, it whispered. We called for help. We sent our signal to everyone. The council? The other species. No one came. No one answered. But you, the ones we feared most, you came? We came. Behind the old Velari, other Velari were slowly emerging from their hiding places. They watched with fearful eyes, but they no longer ran. They waited to see what would happen. A small Velari child peeked out from behind its parent. It was tiny, maybe the size of a human toddler. Its blue skin was covered in dirt and ash. Its golden eyes were huge in its thin face. Jisoo smiled at the child. She reached into her pack and pulled out a food bar. She unwrapped it slowly, then took a small bite to show it was safe. Then she held it out toward the child. The parent grabbed the child and pulled it back. But the child struggled, reaching toward the food with tiny hands. It is okay, Jisoo said. It is just food. For the little one. The old Velari watched this exchange. Then it said something to the parent in their own language. The parent hesitated, then let the child go. The child walked toward Jisoo on unsteady legs. It stopped just out of reach, looking at the food bar with desperate hunger. Then it looked up at Jisoo's face. Jisoo waited. She did not move. She did not push. She just held out the food and smiled. The child took the food. It bit into it immediately, eating so fast that it almost choked. Jisoo reached out slowly and patted its back, helping it breathe. And then something amazing happened. The child finished eating. It looked up at Jisoo with those golden eyes. And it smiled. A tiny, precious smile that crossed all the barriers between species. Then it hugged her, its small arms wrapped around her neck. Its thin body pressed against her chest. Jisoo felt tears in her own eyes as she hugged the child back, gently, so gently. The other Velari watched in shock. The monsters from the Nightmare Planet, the Deathworlders they had been taught to fear since birth, were not eating them. They were not hurting them. They were helping. Sergeant Dongwoo stepped forward. He carried a crate of medical supplies. He set it down and opened it, showing the contents to the watching Velari. Medicine, he said. For you're sick. You're injured. Let us help. Another soldier, Private Sunmi, brought forward bottles of water. She handed them out to any Velari brave enough to approach. At first, only a few came. Then more. Then more. Within an hour, the entire refugee camp had gathered around the humans. Jisoo and her team moved through the crowd, treating injuries, handing out supplies, offering comfort to those who needed it. The old Velari followed Jisoo as she worked. It watched her bandage wounds. It watched her give medicine to sick children. It watched her hold the hands of dying elders and offer kind words, even though they could not understand her language. Why? The old Velari finally asked. I must understand. Why do you do this? What do you gain? Jisoo finished wrapping a bandage around a young Valari's arm. She looked up at the old one. We gain nothing, she said. That is not why we help. Then why? Jisoo thought about the question. She thought about her home on Earth, her family. The stories her grandmother used to tell her about the old days, when humans were divided and fought each other. About how they learned, slowly, painfully, that helping others was the only way to truly survive. On my planet, she said, we have a saying. No one survives alone. For millions of years, we faced a world that tried to kill us every day. The only way we survived was by helping each other. Sharing food. Protecting the weak. Caring for the sick. It is in our blood. In our bones. We cannot see suffering and do nothing. It is not in our nature. The old Valari was silent for a long moment. Then it did something that surprised Jisoo. It bowed. A deep, formal bow of respect. I was wrong, it said. We were all wrong. You are not monsters. You are something else. Something better. Jisoo helped the old one stand straight again. We're just humans, she said. Nothing special. Just people who believe that every life matters. As the day went on, more shuttles arrived. More humans came down from the fleet. They brought more supplies. More medicine. More hope. The Valari began to see the truth. The Deathworlders were not what they had been told. They were strange, yes. Their bodies were thick and heavy. Their eyes were small. Their teeth were flat and square. They moved with a strength that seemed impossible for any creature. But they were kind, gentle, patient. One young Valari asked a human soldier why humans were so strong. The soldier, a man named Ji-hoon, laughed and tried to explain. Our planet has heavy gravity, he said. We carry more weight just by existing. And we had to fight predators. Run from danger. Our bodies grew strong because weak things die on Earth. The young Valari looked horrified. Your planet sounds terrible. It is beautiful, Ji-hoon said. But yes, it is dangerous. Maybe that is why we understand your pain. We know what it is like to face death every day. We know what it is like to be afraid. By nightfall, the refugee camp had transformed. Humans and Valari worked side by side, setting up better shelters, cooking food, treating the injured. The fear had not completely disappeared, but something new had taken its place. Trust. Slowly growing trust. Jisoo stood at the edge of the camp, looking up at the purple sky. The twin suns had set alarm cut through the silence like a knife. Commander Yunwoo stood on the bridge of the battleship Dagu, watching his screens light up with red warnings. The tactical display showed exactly what he had been waiting for. What they had all been waiting for. The Kreth had arrived. How many? Admiral Taiho's voice came through the communication channel. He was on the Seoul, 20 kilometers away, commanding the entire fleet. Hyun-woo counted the dots on his screen. His stomach felt heavy. 400 ships, sir. Maybe more. They are still coming out of hyperspace. 400. The human fleet had 300. The Kreth had more ships and more experience. They had never lost a battle. They had never faced an enemy that did not run until today. All ships to battle stations, Taiho ordered. Formation Delta. Shields at maximum. This is it, people. This is what we came for. Across the fleet, thousands of humans moved to their positions. Pilots climbed into fighter craft. Gunners powered up their weapons. Engineers prepared the engines for hard maneuvering. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone had volunteered for this. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. Fresh from the academy. They had trained for battles that everyone said would never come. Now they were about to face the most feared enemy in the galaxy. Are you scared? He asked them. His weapons officer, a woman named Yaren, looked up from her console. Yes, sir. Good. Fear keeps you alive. But do not let it control you. We have a job to do. Focus on that. The Kreth fleet finished arriving. On the screen, it looked like a swarm of angry insects. Their ships were dark and angular, covered in weapons and armor. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never been prey. A transmission came through. Video feed. The face that appeared on screen made Hyam-Woo's blood run cold. The Kreth were ugly by human standards. Gray skin covered in rough scales. 4 eyes, each one glowing a dull red. A mouth full of sharp teeth, designed for tearing flesh. They wore black armor that seemed to absorb light. The Kreth commander spoke. His voice was deep and harsh, like rocks grinding together. Unknown vessels. You have entered Kreth hunting territory. You are interfering with our harvest. Identify yourselves. Admiral Taiho's face appeared on a split screen. He looked calm, almost bored. This is Admiral Taiho of the United Earth Fleet. We are here to evacuate the Volari. You will allow us to do so. The Kreth commander laughed. At least, Himo thought it was a laugh. It sounded more like choking. United Earth? We have never heard of your species. You are not in Council records. The Council quarantined us. They were afraid of what we might do. Afraid? Of you? You are small, weak-looking. Your ships are primitive. The Kreth commander leaned forward. Why would anyone fear creatures like you? Taiho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. We come from a death world. A planet that tries to kill its inhabitants every day. We evolved fighting predators, diseases, and disasters. We survived ice ages. We survived wars. We survived everything our world threw at us. And do you know what we learned? What? We learned that giving up is not an option. We learned that surrender means death. We learned to fight until our last breath, and then to fight some more. Taiho's smile disappeared. You have destroyed 17 civilizations. 17 species that bend to your will. But we do not bend. We do not break. And we do not run. The Kreth commander stared at him for a long moment. Then it laughed again. Brave words from a dead species. Let me show you what happens to those who challenge the Kreth. The transmission cut off. On the tactical display, the Kreth fleet began to move. They arranged themselves into an attack formation. A massive wedge of ships, all pointing toward the human fleet. Here they come, Hinmu said. All weapons ready. Prepare for impact. The Kreth attacked. Their first strike was overwhelming. Hundreds of energy beams lanced across the space between the fleets. They hit the human ships like a hammer. Shields flared and crackled. The daggers shook from the impact. Alarms screamed. Shields at 60%. Yaren shouted. They hit hard. Hold the line. Hyun-woo ordered. Return fire. The human ships answered. Their weapons were different from the Kreth. Kinetic rounds instead of energy beams. Old technology, some would say. But kinetic rounds did not care about shields. They punched through anything. The first Kreth ship exploded. It was a small victory in a huge battle. But it was something. The Kreth had expected their enemies to break and run. They had expected panic and fear. Instead, they got resistance. Keep firing. Taiho's voice boomed across the fleet channel. Do not stop. Make them pay for every shot they take. The battle became chaos. Ships twisted and turned in the darkness of space. Weapons fire lit up the void like a terrible lightning storm. Explosions bloomed orange and white against the black. The Kreth were good. They had centuries of experience. Their tactics were refined and brutal. They targeted the weakest ships first, trying to create holes in the human formation, but the humans adapted. When one ship was in danger, others moved to support it. When a section of the line wavered, reinforcements appeared. The fleet fought as one organism, each part supporting the others, and they did not run. Hour after hour, the battle continued. Ships died on both sides. The human fleet lost 30 ships, then 50, then 70. But the Kreth were losing too. Their confidence began to crack. Why won't they flee? Hyunwoo heard a captured Kreth transmission through his intelligence officer. They are dying. Why don't they flee? Because fleeing was not in their nature. Because humans had evolved to stand and fight, no matter the odds. Because surrender was a concept they understood but refused to accept. The Kreth commander grew angry. He threw more ships into the attack. More weapons. More fury. The human fleet buckled but did not break. On the Daegu, Hyunwoo fought to keep his ship alive. They had taken heavy damage. 3 decks were open to space. A quarter of the crew was dead or wounded. But the ship still flew. The weapons still fired. Shields failing. Yeren reported. Her face was covered in sweat and blood from a cut on her forehead. One more hit and we're done. Hyunwoo looked at his tactical screen. A Kreth warship was approaching, weapons charging. It was bigger than the Daegu, much bigger. Its guns could destroy them in a single volley. All hands, Hyunwoo said calmly. Prepare for ramming speed. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. If they could not win with weapons, they would win with their ship. With their bodies. With their lives, sir? Yaren's voice was small. Set course. Maximum acceleration. Hit them right in the middle. Yes, sir. The Daegu turned. Its engines roared to full power. The damaged ship began to accelerate, aimed directly at the Kreth warship. The Kreth saw them coming. They tried to move. Too slow. The Daegu was faster at the last moment. Hyunwoo gave the order to evacuate. Escape pods launched from every port. Hundreds of humans flew into space, trusting their small pods to carry them to safety. The Daegu hit the Kreth warship at full speed. The explosion was enormous. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire and debris. The shockwave pushed nearby ships away like leaves in the wind. Hyunwoo watched from his escape pod. He had been one of the last to leave. Around him, other pods drifted through space, their occupants waiting for rescue. Commander! Yaren's voice came through his pod's radio. She had made it out too. Commander, are you alive? I'm here, he said. Damage report on the fleet? The Kreth are. Sir, the Kreth are retreating. Hyunwoo sat up straight in his cramped pod. He looked out the small window. She was right. The Kreth ships were pulling back, disengaging from the battle, fleeing. They're running, Yeren said, her voice full of wonder. Sir, they're running from us. Across the fleet, cheers erupted. Soldiers shouted and cried. Captains embraced their crews. For the first time in 300 years, the Kreth had been beaten back. Not destroyed, not completely defeated, but they had been stopped. Admiral Taiho's voice came through the communication channel. He sounded tired but triumphant. All ships, hold position. Do not pursue. Rescue operations for all escape pods. Medical teams to all damaged vessels. He paused. And someone get me Commander Hyunwoo. That crazy fool just gave us our first real victory. Hyunwoo leaned back in his pod and closed his eyes. His ship was gone. Many of his crew were dead. The battle was not truly over, but they had survived the first wave. They had done the impossible. Around him, the debris of both fleets floated through space. Human and Kreth wreckage mixed together, slowly drifting apart. So much destruction. So much death. but also so much hope. On the Valari homeworld below, the refugees looked up at the sky. They could see the flashes of the battle. They did not know what was happening, but they hoped. For the first time in weeks, they hoped. The Deathworlders had come. And they were not losing. Hours later, Hyunwoo was pulled from his escape pod by a rescue shuttle. He was taken to the Seoul, where Admiral Taiho waited. The Admiral looked old, tired. He had lost friends in the battle. Good captains, brave soldiers. But he also looked proud. "You destroyed one of their biggest ships," Taiho said. "With a suicide run. It was the only option, sir. It was insane." Taiho paused. "It was perfectly human. What happens now, sir?" Taiho looked out the window at the damaged fleet. "They will come back. The Kreth do not accept defeat easily. They will burn." The Kreth returned on the 7th day. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of the Seoul, watching them come. This time, there were more. 600 ships. The largest Kreth fleet ever assembled for a single battle. They had brought their best commanders, their newest weapons, their most ruthless soldiers. They came for revenge. They came to destroy the Deathworlders who had dared to make them run. But humanity had not been idle. In the 7 days since the first battle, the fleet had repaired what they could. Wounded soldiers had healed. Damaged ships had been patched together. And reinforcements had arrived from Earth. 50 more warships, carrying fresh crews and new weapons. 350 human ships now faced 600 Kreth. The odds were still bad, but they were better than before. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Minhao announced. "The Valari evacuation is 80% complete. Most civilians are already on transport ships, waiting to jump to safety. How long until they can leave?" 2 hours, sir." "They need 2 hours." 2 hours. That was how long the fleet needed to hold. 2 hours of hell against the largest enemy fleet they had ever faced. "We can do it," Taiho said. He was not sure if he believed it, but he had to say it. His people needed to hear it. The Kreth commander appeared on screen. It was a different one this time. Bigger, scarier. Its 4 red eyes burned with hatred. "Deathworlders," it growled. "You have annoyed us long enough. Today you die. Every one of you. We will hunt down your homeworld and burn it. We will erase your species from existence. There will be nothing left of you but ash and memory." Taiho looked at the commander calmly. "You talk a lot for someone who ran away last time." The commander's scales flushed dark with anger. "We did not run. We retreated to gather more forces. A tactical decision, whatever helps you sleep at night." Taiho leaned forward. "But let me tell you something, Kreth. You have been the hunters for 300 years. You have never been the prey. You do not understand what it means to fight for survival. You kill because it is easy, because your victims are weak. You are weak too. No, we are not. We come from a world where everything wants to kill us. The air, the water, the animals, even the plants. We've been fighting for our lives since before your species existed. And you know what we learned?" "What?" Taiho smiled. It was the smile of a predator. "We learned that the most dangerous thing in the universe is something that has nothing left to lose. You've threatened our homeworld, our families, our children. You made this personal." His smile disappeared. "Now you will learn why the galaxy was right to fear us." The transmission ended. The Kreth fleet began to move. And humanity answered. The second battle was worse than the first. Much worse. The Kreth had learned from their earlier defeat. They did not charge blindly. They spread out, attacking from multiple angles. They used their superior numbers to surround the human fleet, cutting off escape routes. Not that humans were trying to escape. The fighting was brutal. Ships exploded on both sides. the darkness of space filled with fire and death. Human pilots flew their fighters into Kreth formations, breaking their lines even at the cost of their own lives. Human captains rammed their damaged ships into enemy vessels, just like Hyunwoo had done before, and still they held. Commander Hyunwoo was back in the fight. They had given him a new ship, the Ulsan. It was smaller than the Daegu, but fast and deadly. He led a squadron of destroyers against the Kreth flanks, hitting hard and falling back before the enemy could respond. "Commander," his weapons officer shouted. "Kreth battleship on our left. It is targeting the evacuation transports." Hyunwoo looked at his tactical screen. She was right. A massive Kreth ship had broken through the defensive line. It was heading straight for the civilian transports. If it reached them, thousands of Valari would die. "All ships, follow me." "We stopped that battleship." His squadron turned and accelerated. 5 small destroyers against a ship 10 times their size. It was suicide, but they were humans. Suicide was just another tactic. They hit the battleship from behind. Their weapons pounded its engines, trying to slow it down. The Kreth ship turned, its massive guns tracking the annoying insects that dared attack it. The first destroyer died in a single hit, then the second. But the remaining 3 kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. Engine damage on the Kreth ship. Someone reported, "It is slowing down. Keep hitting it. Do not let it reach those transports." The battle around them seemed to fade away. All that existed was the Ulsan and its prey. They dodged and weaved, avoiding the Kreth weapons by centimeters. They fired everything they had, emptying their ammunition stores. Finally, the Kreth battleship stopped. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were firing randomly, hitting nothing. It was crippled. "It's down," Hyunwoo shouted. "Move to the next target." But there was no next target. As the Ulsan pulled away from the crippled battleship, Hyunwoo realized something had changed. The Kreth were not pressing their attack anymore. They were hesitating. "Sir," his communication officer said, "I am receiving a fleet-wide transmission." From the Admiral. "Put it through." Taiho's voice filled the bridge. "All ships, hold fire. The Kreth are signaling." "They want to talk? Hold fire? In the middle of a battle?" Hyunwoo was confused, but he trusted his admiral. He ordered his ships to stop shooting and wait. The Kreth commander appeared on screen again. It looked different now. The hatred in its eyes had been replaced by something else. Something Hyunwoo had never expected to see. Fear. "Deathworlders," the Kreth said. Its voice was quieter than before. We have lost 200 ships. You have lost less than 100. We do not understand. This should not be possible." Taiho's voice was calm. "It is possible because we fight for something worth fighting for. You fight for conquest. We fight for survival. For protection. For love? Love?" The Kreth seemed confused by the word. "What does love have to do with war?" "Everything. We love our families, our friends, our allies. That love makes us strong. It makes us willing to die so others can live. You cannot defeat that. You cannot even understand it." The Kreth was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again. "We will withdraw. We will leave the Valari. We will not return. And if you do return, we will not." The Kreth actually shuddered. "We have learned something today. Something the galaxy needs to know. The Deathworlders are not monsters. They are guardians. And they are far more terrifying than any monster." The Kreth fleet began to pull back. One by one, the ships turned and flew away, disappearing into hyperspace. Within an hour, they were gone. The human fleet floated in silence. Damaged, bloodied, but victorious. On the Sol, Admiral Taiho slumped in his chair. He suddenly looked very old. Very tired. How many? He asked quietly. Minho checked his reports. We lost 93 ships, sir. 42,000 personnel. Dead or missing. 42,000. Fathers and mothers. Sons and daughters. Friends and lovers. All gone. And the Valari? The evacuation is complete. All civilian transports have jumped to safety. 0 casualties. 0. They had saved everyone. Every single Valari who had called for help was now safe. Taiho closed his eyes. Tears ran down his weathered face. Then it was worth it, he whispered. All of it. Worth it. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Kreth had been defeated. Not just beaten back. Truly defeated. They had surrendered and fled. The unbeatable enemy had been beaten. And the ones who had done it. The Deathworlders. The monsters from the Nightmare Planet. The species the Galactic Council had quarantined out of feared species all across. The galaxy watched the recordings of the battle. They saw human ships sacrifice themselves to protect others. They saw human soldiers die with smiles on their faces, knowing their deaths meant life for someone else. They saw something they had never seen before. True courage. True compassion. True strength. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representative Ilko, the same Veloxi who had warned the humans to turn back, addressed the gathered species. We were wrong, Ilko said. His voice was heavy with shame. For 50 years, we quarantined the humans because we feared them. We looked at their death world and saw only death. We looked at their strength and saw only violence. We were blind. The chamber was silent. The humans showed us what we could not see ourselves. True strength is not about killing. It is about protecting. True courage is not about being unafraid. It is about being afraid and fighting anyway. The humans faced impossible odds to save a species they had never met. They gave their lives for strangers. That is not the behavior of monsters. That is the behavior of heroes. Ilko paused, gathering himself. I propose we end the quarantine. I propose we invite humanity to join the Galactic Council. Not as probationary members. As full members. As equals. He looked around the chamber. They have earned it. With their blood and their sacrifice, they have earned it. The vote was unanimous on Earth. The news arrived like a gift from the stars. People gathered in the streets, crying and laughing and hugging strangers. The quarantine was over. They were finally free. Free to explore the galaxy. Free to meet other species. Free to take their place among the stars. Admiral Taiho returned home to a hero's welcome. But he did not feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had done what needed to be done. Nothing more. His wife, Suman, met him at the spaceport.